A Jacksonville Jaguars player is facing two lawsuits filed by two different women regarding alleged sexual encounters.
That Jaguars player is defensive tackle Marcell Dareus. He is named in the two cases, one filed in December in Tampa, the other filed just last week here in Jacksonville. Both women claim they were assaulted while they were unconscious.
Investigative reporter Julia Janae has been going through both of these lawsuits and joins us now live. Julia, is there any connection between the cases?
Jeff, there's no connection that we can find in these two lawsuits. Like you said, they were filed at different times, and they are by women who live in different states. Now, they are civil allegations. There are no criminal charges that are pending for these, but even though they are not apparently connected, there are some similarities.
Jaguars lineman Marcell Dareus is facing accusations of assault as two different women have filed lawsuits in the state of Florida in the past 8 months. The most recent case was filed Friday. A woman from Texas claims she went on 3 dates with Dareus in Houston, one that included an overnight stay. After a week, the lawsuit says her doctor diagnosed her with herpes, leading the woman named only as Jane Doe to file for damages in Duval County's court, alleging negligence, misrepresentation, and infliction of physical and emotional distress. The former All-Pro lineman was already in litigation with another woman from Las Vegas. In a separate lawsuit filed in December, the Las Vegas woman alleges she met Dareus at a mansion party in Lutz, near Tampa. After drinking a strange-tasting drink, the woman claims she was sexually assaulted. Her attorney says she waited 11 months before coming forward.
Apprehensive to the fact that she didn't want to bring herself in such a public light. She was dealing with these issues and had problems with what had occurred. She just felt at some point she could no longer just keep it inside of her.
Now, the person that you just heard from there was the attorney for the first woman in that lawsuit. His name is Joseph Williams. Now, these two lawsuits, they both allege that the sexual intercourse happened while they were either unconscious or blacked out. There was also no police report filed in either of these, and they both have a Tampa attorney that's on the case, but it's not the same attorney. Now, we reached out to Dareus's agent for a comment today and did not receive a response. We also reached out to the Jaguars. The representative told us they wouldn't be commenting on this case. For now, reporting live downtown, Julia Janae, First Coast News, on your side.
So, Julia, what about Dareus himself? Has he responded to either one of these lawsuits?
Well, the case that was just filed last week is relatively new, and he has at least 30 days to file a response if he's been served. So that has not happened yet. But in that case in Hillsborough County that was filed back in December, he has responded to that and has filed a motion to dismiss the claim. And there's a hearing that is pending for August 9th. Back to you.
Thank you, Julia.